we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another shot on video episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, chop up, and other things. A brand new horror movie every week. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 417, recorded Monday, April 3rd, 2023. Tonight we're talking about another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by your boy Gabe. The movie is Paranormal Activity 3. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
What's up, man? I heard you got a nasty chice on your leg there. What are you going to do about that?
Chice.
Gonna fix it up?
It's nice when you get a chice. You know what they say?
Is it? Man, maybe I've been misinformed of the meaning of this word you've invented.
You're welcome. Read a dictionary, etc., etc.
Okay, yeah, it'll be there too. We know this.
It'll be there. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Yo, what up? It's your boy Analog Stains.
Who's Analog?
My girl Anna.
Anna, Analog.
She caused a mess, quite the mess.
She did.
The log, the mess of the log.
No, that's just her last.
We're really
name.
gonna try and connect this to shit, aren't we?
Trying.
How can we get this back to toilet humor as quickly as possible?
Working on it. Boys, we're talking about Paranormal Activity 3. The first one for us, anyways. I don't think we've reviewed any of the other ones.
We have not dipped our toe into this franchise.
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
We're doing it
scientists.
chronologically, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
since this is like a prequel, you know? We
That's
kind
true.
of are starting from the beginning. Thank
That's
you,
true.
Gabe.
Actually, yeah, that is true. I had to watch a video timeline of the whole series to remind myself of everything. And God, there's so much.
I meant to watch like number 1, but since we got tied up with having to watch a billion other things, I could not do that.
Yeah.
Busy
It's
week.
cool. That one's the
Yeah.
easiest to understand.
I mean, luckily this pretty much stands on its own, so it's okay.
Yeah, it does, for sure. Before we get into the main event, though, let's talk about some housekeeping. So this is a brand new month. That means our April poll over on our Patreon website has closed. The theme for April was weed, and the winner for that is Troll 2.
Whoa.
Oh
that was a
my
tight race.
God.
I will say,
Yeah.
even because of the time difference, I was up at like, I felt like, I don't know, I'd have to do the math on the time, but I was like up and I saw it. And when I saw it, it had to be just a couple hours. Scary Movie was up 1. So I don't know how it got flipped around.
You know, sometimes the
know.
Lord smiles upon you.
That's the tightest race we've seen in a hot minute.
Someone rolled a fatty and said, you know what? I want to talk about trolls.
I guess somebody had to change. They had to change from Scary Movie to Troll.
They had to change
Smart.
into a troll.
Into
how it
a
works.
fly. So we're going to be talking about Troll 2 very soon.
It's
That
not
does,
a
of
goth
course-
sex night, Bob. Come on, no Deftones here.
Every night is goth sex night. Pulled off your wings. That means we got a brand new poll posted on our Patreon website. Our May poll is up there. The theme for which is Let's Kill the Beast. Juice, this is your takeover month.
Whoa, Juice is taking over. Yep. So This is something. So I was trying to work with the theme that could get me Underworld in there, and I ended up with this one, which actually I was kind of proud of after trying a couple different ones that didn't really work out that much. But this one,
It's all a means to an end, though.
yeah, kill the beast. We are going hunting, not cooter hunting, but you get to choose which beast we will be hunting. You can hunt.
I'd fuck a space vampire.
Yeah, well, no, we're not
Hell
hunting the
yeah.
space vampires. We are hunting.
We're not?
Werewolf. You
Earth
got the choice
vampires.
between werewolves, trolls, or dragons. So, Bob, how are those numbers looking?
So far, the troll train is running because Troll Hunter's winning. So
Whoa.
Damn.
people want to hear us talk about trolls.
These
Troll-
people are ready for troll culture to take over once and for all.
I'm really big into troll culture right now.
You know,
That's
I'm
my
really
vibe.
big. I'm really big into troll law. You know,
We
that's
thought
kind of
that
my
troll
specialty.
culture really I thought it peaked out at Trolls 2 World Tour, but man, we just keep rolling along. Let's keep picking up steam.
You
We
know, I
a troll
kinda
in every house in America. So.
carved out my own niche with this troll law. You know, so
Trolls need to be represented fairly in the court of law, and we are here to make that happen.
yeah. All right.
Underworld is in
Establish
second place. Rain of Fire is in last. So
All right.
many days left to vote. Get your votes in before the end of the month, and we'll see what we're talking about this May. We got mini casts coming at you left and right. Last Friday, we just dropped a mini cast where Juice was reviewing the first season of The Walking Dead, which is great. It's a solid season.
Yeah, it's short, so you don't have to kind of like wade through a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that first episode is like classic television. I mean, that episode within itself it could almost be just like this kind of almost feature length. It does a really good job. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of go back and relive those days where we would all gather around. It's fun. It was like some
The
people were
glory days.
yeah, they were posting their stories too of everybody. You know, I feel like just so many people have a Walking Dead story. It was such a cultural thing for a while. So yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I
was a
mean,
big deal.
you can't even like that show is got so many iconic moments just from that first season.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could go to any Walking Dead like haunted house or anything like that without seeing that "Don't bed open inside."
Yeah. The dead, yeah, don't
door.
open it. Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. And also, yeah, it's crazy how it just kind of like permeated throughout like to so many different memories. Like, you know, I think about going to Universal for the haunted house night.
Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, Halloween Horror
Mhm.
Nights. And they had that, like, we went 2 or 3 times, and that was just a permanent fixture there walking through
It
the
just
streets,
kinda
a
is.
Walking Dead experience. Yeah.
They have its own con, the Walker Stalker con.
Holy
Like,
shit.
Yeah.
They've got like
Yeah, it's a
8
massive-
sequel series now or something.
There's a
Spin-offs.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a
I
lot.
don't know how much depth there is to plumb even after just a few seasons of that show.
But I mean, they're
Money.
justifying it somehow because people are going. Like,
I
you
mean,
Yeah.
can't
the
have a
diehards
con
are
with no
diehard.
people. Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
see Coral in real life. You got to do it.
Got to.
Oh,
I
Oh
gotta
my
see
God, it's Coral.
my boy
My boy.
T-Dog.
I'll protect.
Coral. I love that meme with the dad joke where he's telling a shitty fucking joke, but he's actually crying in the show. It is so fucking funny. That shit gets me.
You're a sick man,
Um,
Bob.
Anyways, yeah, we got mini casts dropping left and right. If you support us at the $10 level or above over on our Patreon website, you get access to all these. We're coming up on 100. So we got a shitload on there for you. Next up, I'm going to be dropping a new mini cast on April 14th. And this is going to be a Q&A that was hosted at the Overlook Film Festival with your boy Nick Cage. He's talking about playing Dracula in Renfield.
Whoa.
The director was there as well as the screenwriter. So you get to hear a lot of really great information, actually. And we're dropping that the day Renfield hits theaters. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that.
Did he talk about how many cockroaches he ate in order to prepare
Dude.
for this?
He did talk about Vampire's Kiss, which was
Nice.
really interesting.
Nice.
He didn't talk about eating cockroaches specifically. I kind of wish he had, but
Well, he definitely talked
Yeah.
about getting into the vampire headspace, which, you know,
yeah.
it's tough to get more into the vampire headspace than Peter Lowe, but I guess Dracula takes the cake.
Rook's
Dude.
never done
But
that,
I don't know.
but-
What did you feel like in the presence of Cage? Were you whelmed? Were you overwhelmed? Underwhelmed?
I
Where
was
He
your
seems
substantially
cool.
whelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a chill, cool guy. Maybe a little quirky, but like you could have a beer with him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
He's-
Do some coke.
He seems like just
You could
like
definitely do some
he's an actor, you know, on every conceivable level.
Yeah.
He is an actor.
cool.
He
That's his
acts.
personality. He's got a lot of like thought process behind what he does. The screaming is just it's just going hard. That's what I call it for Nick. He goes
Cool.
hard. He goes places other actors are afraid to go.
Hard with Cage. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. That's all I got for Patreon. Do you guys have anything you need to plug here?
Well, we're going to be releasing some kind of, I guess after this episode comes out, we'll be releasing some Overlook stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a couple bonus episodes and YouTube episodes. So keep an eye out for that. Got a lot of movies to talk about.
A lot of
Yeah.
movies. They gave us a lot of hay to fork through. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
I've
gonna
been
have,
forking.
gotta
We're gonna
get
have bonus
forking.
episodes on our main feed as well as on our mini cast and some YouTube material. So you're gonna be it's basically like you were at the Overlook Film Festival. That's what we're going for here. So yeah. Ray and Deezy, you got anything?
Nothing in particular. Right on the horizon. There's some stuff in the future, but we'll wait for the future to come to us.
Right on. Here's another reminder. We all sat in with Caitlin over at Plug It Up. We were talking about the Stepford Wives, and that is going to be dropping April 4th. So make sure you check that out.
That's today for me. I am living
That
in
is,
this time.
I'm living in a time, the flat circle that is known as time. Yeah, I guess by the time we drop this show, that'll already be out. So yeah, check it out. Slam it into your ear holes. Plug it up everywhere you get your podcast. I think our houses are clean.
Hell yeah.
This house is clean.
That was a filthy house.
Dude, don't I know it. Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Paranormal Activity 3, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, do you have this box set, I assume?
Yeah, I got like the first 3 in one little box here,
Okay.
and it's nice. I like this franchise. If you're into it, this is like a really, I don't know. I think you can get this for like maybe $12 for the first 3 movies or whatever.
I was told it was 5.
It might be free depending on who you are.
$3.99. Wow.
$3.99, baby. So yeah, Paranormal Activity 3. This dropped in 2011, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 23 minutes. Directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. Written by Christopher Landon and Oren Peli. Stars Chloe Signory. Probably nailed that one. Jessica
Nailed it.
Tyler Brown. Christopher Nicholas Smith, and some other folks. Plot synopsis brought to you by the back of the box is as follows. Paranormal Activity 3 takes you back to where it all began, and the activity is more intense than ever. The cameras are on the recording, the chilling moments, and when evil begins to terrorize young sisters Katie and Christy for the first time. Brace yourselves for the horror phenomenon that delivers heart-exploding scares, so frightening that the last 15 minutes will mess you up for life.
Oh,
For
no,
life.
not again.
Your life will be ruined when you watch this movie. It's over.
That's the promise of Paranormal Activity 3.
That's a hell of a box quote, honestly. That's
You'll
fucking
end up
nuts.
dead or in prison after you're done with this film. There's
Uh,
only 2 options.
The heart exploding scares. That was a Brad Miska quote from Bloody Disgusting. Bloody Disgusting.
Exploding.
And the last 15 minutes will mess you up for life. dude named Aaron Morgan. I'm not sure that from Ain't It Cool News.
So that
which is
wasn't
no longer
okay. So
cool
they were
now.
working in quotes into the
Yeah,
blurb.
box quotes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seemed a little self-aggrandizing, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
You will die when you watch our movie.
It's not us saying this. It's someone else saying this. We just
It's-
printed it. What can we
They're
do?
just correct, and we know that. That's all.
We just know you're gonna die from this film.
Damn.
So yeah, gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Ray and DZ, kick us off.
Yes, I have. It's no secret, I think, to anybody who's listened to us talk about found footage in the past, that I'm a little bit of a found footage mark, and Paranormal Activity was a big part of that, growing that seed for me. So yes, I saw this in theaters. I'm pretty sure I saw this in theaters.
I think we saw it together in theaters during the Fest 2011, I think.
I think you're right. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like
In
before
Gainesville?
the bands started playing, like early
Yeah.
like an early matinee.
Like a noon
Might be right
showing
about
or
that.
some shit. Yeah.
We were just dog tired and like, let's just go see a fucking movie for a couple hours.
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah, as a found footage type, one of those guys, I would say, yeah, if you met chat description in any way, or you feel like you've enjoyed Paranormal Activity films in the past, I think it's a fair enough recommend, but I don't know that I'd go very much far beyond that.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I had seen this one before. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theaters too. Not with you guys, but I think this is where I stopped exploring the Paranormal Activity franchise. I think I got through the first 3, and I'm pretty sure I have not ventured beyond that. Yeah, I would kind of like generally recommend this. It's kind of weird because it is the third one. It in most ways can stand on its own. But I did find it a little like detaching that I didn't rewatch the first one. Like it's been years and years and years. And so while I wasn't necessarily confused about who was what or what was going on. It did feel like a little weird. But yeah, I mean, this is your pretty standard, I would say, kind of run of the mill found footage mixed with some, haunted house, haunting type of movie. So get to haunting. So yeah, I would like generally recommend if you're into those subgenres. Bob,
That's what you're into.
if it's what you're into, Bob, would you recommend people check this out? Had you seen this before? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, no, as I've already stated.
Moving on.
I saw it in the theater, and I think this was my second go round watching it for this episode. And I generally am positive on this franchise. They're not all hitters, but I think more often than not they work. And I like this one. So yeah, I would recommend it if you're into found footage. Sure. I do know, like, when the Paranormal Activity 1 came out, there was a handful of people that that shit just did not work for, and it was boring as fuck. So
I was thinking about that during this movie because I know who you're thinking about.
That is the go-to story I have about Paranormal Activity, is sitting between the two polar opposite examples. Where Justin's on the left, too afraid to watch and asking me what's going on screen, and resident serial killer Drew is looking like he's gonna fall asleep. Like there was literally could not be any more different.
Borland, what's happening?
Yeah. You're like, oh boy, what's happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like,
So
there's a giant screen.
If you're one of those people that this kind of stuff doesn't work for, I'm sure you know that about yourself. But yeah, generally speaking, I'd recommend it. Yes. So yeah, I'd say recommend across the board. Mid recommendation from the Straight Showing crew.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Yep.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, did you type out that plot synopsis?
Absolutely not.
That should be short and sweet. You didn't?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And it is fairly short.
Damn. All right.
God damn it! I have to listen to this man speak.
Time for a coffee run.
Yeah, no, I'm living in a nightmare.
I am the cream. All right.
That man is my father.
What? Oh,
If he's
Maury
the
Povich,
cream,
come on
then, you know.
You're his stain. All right. Here comes the plot synopsis for Paranormal Activity 3. The movie starts off in March 2005. We see Katie delivering a box of old videotapes to her pregnant sister Christy and husband Daniel. A year later, their house is ransacked and the tapes are missing. The VHS footage filmed in 1988 on those tapes makes up the remainder of this film. Young Katie and Christy are living with their mom, Julie, and her boyfriend, Dennis. Their father has left for unknown reasons. Katie has an imaginary friend named Toby, and strange things have been happening around the house. After Dennis films an earthquake in their bedroom, he sees an invisible figure in the footage. His buddy convinces him to set up cameras all over the house to try and catch more footage of this creature. Dennis and Julie hire a babysitter one night, and she's terrified by strange events in the house. Katie then tells Toby they're no longer friends. Dennis finds a symbol in the girl's closet and looks it up in a demonology book. Christy then falls ill, and her parents take her to the hospital. Katie is left with their family friend Randy at the house, and they're attacked by a figure who throws furniture and scratches Randy's stomach. When Julie and Dennis,
me.
Please don't. When Julie and Dennis return home, he tells Julie the symbol belonged to a witch's coven that brainwashed young girls into birthing sons, and then giving up those sons only to have their memory of the entire thing erased. Julie isn't buying this bullshit. The demon ends up harming Katie until Christy does what it asks, which is Christy requests her mother take her to her grandmother's house. At Grandma Lois's house, Julie is awakened by a loud noise and goes to investigate. She doesn't return, so Dennis looks for her. He finds occult drawings all over the walls and several women dressed in black. He runs out of the house and finds Julie's body limp and levitating before it's thrown at him. Dennis and Christy hide in the kitchen. Dennis is eventually killed by Grandma Lois. And then Lois takes Katie and Christy to get ready as they walk upstairs. Christy calls for Toby, and we hear some loud growling sounds coming from upstairs as the cameras cut. Roll them credits, boys.
Now, I don't know. This movie's like I wonder if you guys got the same reaction I did rewatching this, where I was like, you know, this movie has a lot more in common with fucking Hereditary than I remembered. Did you notice that? Like plot wise,
Yeah, kind of.
There's a few beats even where, like the floating mom, like
I kind of did.
The devious grandma and the unaware mom who ends up floating, not quite headless in this one, but
Hey, spoilers!
You know.
Whoa, damn. No, that didn't really cross. It didn't really cross my mind much. Something that like did stand out to me, since I'd only seen this once in theaters, and I found it to be pretty effective. But like I think generally speaking for this franchise, like I do like most of them, but they don't really hold up very well on rewatches, I don't think, because these movies are like interesting in the fact that like they rely, like they work explicitly because of the anticipation of what's about to happen, like the unknown. And there's a handful of like really great scares in most of these movies, but once those scares happen, there's not a ton of like character development, or you don't go in depth with who these people are so much. So like once those the scares, you know, as you're like riding through, like, you know, like a haunt in a car or whatever, like if you know where all the scares are, it's really not that effective anymore, and it feels kind of like a ride in that way almost.
Dude, I
That's a
had
good
that
call.
same exact feeling where I was like, this really feels like a haunted house experience. Where, you know, like nobody's going into a haunted house experience thinking like I'm gonna get some kind of depth, or, you know, it's not theater performance. It's literally there for the experience to get scared. And, you know, maybe you can admire some of the craft work and stuff like that, but you
I do admire craft work.
Yeah, you go into you go into the challenge of, am I gonna get got? And in the same way, one of the things I was thinking of is with these kind of movies, my eyes are always scanning. You want to
Yeah.
see what's gonna get you. You want to see where it's coming from. You want to see
Yeah,
like what's
totally.
in the shadows, in the background. You want to see if you
Mhm.
can find what's hidden. And so that's kind of fun. But yeah, as a film, as a narrative, I
Mhm.
took a note that it wasn't until like 50 minutes in that I wrote like, wow, that was like cool. And it was
Yeah.
the sheet, the sheet
The sheet's
scene.
The
great. Yeah.
sheet was the first
They
cool thing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And that was 50
something
minutes in. Woo.
The build was
something
very
else.
slow.
It is something else that they do in this franchise, and not just in a lot of found footage, of course. They have to like come up with sort of inventive ways to get the footage to be recorded at all. And I think they have some cool stuff in this movie and some of the other ones as well. They're like when he sets up the camera on the oscillating fan, and that like slow back and forth builds some really great tension. And I love
Yeah.
that invention. Randy, you sound like maybe you don't so much.
No, I mean, I agree. Like as far as a set piece, I think that works. This kind of like becomes the issue that I got hung up on this time around. One of them, which is like I agree that this time around it didn't pack the same punch. And then on top of that, this is supposed to be set in 1988.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't look anything like it. Looks like 2005.
Yeah.
You can't just throw in one side ponytail and call it fucking 1988. Even
The
the
dentist.
recording itself, and that's what where I was
Yeah.
coming from, is like the recording itself
Yeah.
looks like digital recording. It doesn't have any sort of analog effect at all
Mm-mm.
on it.
And
except
even
for
I
the
was
timestamp.
thinking, I was like, there's no way these cameras would work in the dark. Not in the
Oh yeah.
80s.
Not
And
well.
also,
Not
Not
well.
holding
not
a
like that.
1980s camcorder is like carrying like a fucking like a
Yeah.
backpack weight. It's huge.
Yeah.
And this guy's just carrying all around, and they do not justify most of it. Like the
No.
stationary cameras, yes, but when they're carrying it around, it does the thing that everybody always complains about, which is like there's no good justification for people holding these things.
No.
You really
Well,
like the kayfabe has to be turned all the way the fuck up.
it does. So this, I mean, this does have some of that like VHS noise like overlaid. It's not very
It's very
heavy.
sparse.
I think they could have done a little more with it for sure. And I agree with you. Some you for the vast majority of found footage movies, I have to just be like, the footage exists. It just does. Don't get hung up on
Mhm.
like, why is this person still filming? Because if you do that, it doesn't work the vast majority of the
Totally.
time. And this is definitely one of those movies, like where
This
the
is
dude hears just like a random noise upstairs and he goes to check on his kid, but just happens to film the entire thing. Like
Right.
he just wouldn't do that. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't care how much you're trying to capture. Like, and the first one I could justify it because Mika is such an asshole that I'm like, this craven dickhead's going to carry his camera around. But these characters
Yeah.
are actually like one of the benefits of this movie is that these characters are maybe the first one in the series that are kind of likable. Like, and so like not
Yeah.
the most likable, but they seem like at least baseline likable. And so like you think of them as like, oh, these are responsible parent figures. These are like cute little kids, and nobody's a real piece of shit except for the big reveal at the end. So like for him to like not be more concerned with capturing it on film than getting his kids safe doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
And
for me. And there's like limits to how much I like you were saying, like this is definitely the kind of movie where you need to be able to like shut that out mentally.
Yeah.
And if the movie the movie needs to work with you on that, and this one really doesn't at all, I don't think.
He has like some Dennis, that is, he has some private conversations out in the garage, which is like his editing studio, because he's got like a side hustle where he films weddings and stuff like that, events, and he edits the footage and stuff. And so he has like a handful of like pretty private conversations, and there's nothing spooky or haunted that's ever happened in the garage, but he just records those conversations, and they're also like very clearly edited, and I assume not by him, because I don't know why that would be.
By Toby.
Yeah, so like I don't, unless he was editing this footage all along the course of the movie or whatever. And there's like cuts like mid sentence too, like like maybe there was a long pause or something, and someone just wanted to go and cut that out. Like what? Like Witch's Coven
Yeah.
is doing these edits and stuff. So like you got to just give yourself over to the movie. And I think largely for the Paranormal Activity series, I can do that because the scares are pretty effective and pretty cool. Like I said, at least for the one time around, but maybe less so on the second go around. I don't, can you guys like kind of give yourselves over to this franchise in that way, or do those things really bother you and take you out of the movie?
Well,
Choose
one
your
thing.
start.
Well, one thing that was bothering me, well, not bothering me. So one thing I had on my mind when I was watching this, specifically with the oscillating camera and like the static ones, is like so several times, we come back to this shot of the fan going back and forth, which I agree in some ways it's cool, but then I kept coming back now to Skinamarink this year, where there's a lot of these like static shots, or the shots where you're looking at the same thing. And then the problem was we're having these movies now who take that same kind of concept, but they don't have to justify the camera settings. And so in that way, it allows you, I don't know, that's more effective to me. Just the introduction of saying it's such a weird thing to say in a movie, I have a camera, this is what I'm going to do with it. Because then your mind wants to be like, well, this wouldn't work at night, and this is too fucking heavy.
Well, it
and why
puts
would
you
you go
behind
into
the
that
camera.
room? Yeah. And I guess it kind of puts you behind that decision. But like when you're in a movie with Skinamarink, it's doing the same thing, but it
I don't.
doesn't have to like live by those rules, I guess. And
Right.
so your mind just accepts it, and that's such a weird thing. But yeah, it does kind of bother me a little bit.
Skinamarink looks like found footage, but it doesn't give itself those guardrails and those rules. And like I wouldn't call it a found footage movie,
No, I
but it
wouldn't
just kind of
either.
resembles one in that
Yeah,
way, which
well,
is
because it's
interesting.
because of the effects that they have going, the analog effects, and like that's to elicit nostalgia. But the camera is still owned by the director in that movie, and so that recedes as you're watching the movie. Whereas in found footage, like I don't know, like I'm like I said, I'm a found footage guy. Like I'm generally pretty positive towards this franchise. I'm at least an apologist to some degree. But like some of the stuff like on rewatch when I'm less anticipating the next scare, and especially when I'm not in a big ass theater, but instead in my home during the day watching this movie, like so much of it, it's like riding, the Haunted Mansion with the lights on or some shit. It's kind of interesting, but it's not scary. It's not hitting the same tones. It's not giving me the thrill that I wanted. And so like I'm noticing these things a lot more the second time around. And it just
Randy,
it hurt me a lot
as like a found footage guy, probably the biggest one of the three of us anyways. Do you remember like the first time watching this? Like did those choices bother you, or were you able to just kind of fall into the story?
I don't remember explicitly having a problem with them. No. Here's the thing is like my recollection of this film is that it is definitely one of the better ones, maybe my second favorite. Because I remember the sequence of it being similar to my feelings towards the Saw franchise, at least at one time, which is every even movie was not very good. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of
Final Destination too. What's up with that?
It is.
I don't know.
It's the same thing. Yeah. What's your number one in the franchise?
It's the original because it has the least like the thing is like this is the first one that I recall like really trying to round out some lore and give it some structure in that way. While the others did, the second one did start doing that, and they had like an idea of what was going on there because they set up a lot of these pieces that clearly we're tying it to the first movie, but they were building out from somewhere, so it felt like a continuation. And this it being a prequel thing, it's showing how those things came to be, and it becomes very like lore centric. And I was kind of into the lore in this one. I like again, like it reminds me now in retrospect of Hereditary and like this sort of, witches coven doings or whatever, and the way that they revealed that I thought worked really nicely. The ending is pretty solid still, I think, for the most part. But like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I feel like it progressively becomes more and more lore centric as the franchise goes on, as a lot of these movies do, as the Saw franchise did, for example. And it starts to lose itself in the mire that is that stuff, to the point where I'm like, they should have either ended this franchise here or reboot it or something else next, or like just done like a full like and I know they did a reboot that I haven't seen in 2021. But I don't
Reboot?
know. Yeah, it's like a documentary style. Like
Oh,
it's very
damn.
different from
Okay.
what I've seen. I don't know that much about it. Like I haven't seen it. But yeah,
I didn't know it was a reboot either, to be honest. I hadn't seen it.
yeah, it's Paranormal Activity, like Next of Kin, I want to say is the name.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
Okay.
I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, so I don't know much about that, but they did like completely break format on that one. And I feel like
Mm.
this movie need to either start doing that if it's going to focus on the lore, or it needed to stop focusing on these characters and just become an anthology series.
I kind
Well,
of
yeah.
disagree with that, man. Because I think when I think of this franchise, my favorites are like 1, 3, and 5, and 1 just for its like, it was novel at the time and super scary, and you didn't really know what to expect. And it really worked in that way. 3 starts to build out the lore, and I think that's probably its strongest point. It has a couple good scares too, and then 5, the marked ones, it like does even more with the lore, and I think that's one of the strongest in the whole franchise.
I think
So
like looking back at that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You go ahead.
no, I mean that's pretty much my point. I just think like my favorite ones are the ones that sort of build out the lore the most, actually.
Yeah, but like to be fair though, I mean saying that this builds out the lore, it does in a sense of like if you're gonna I haven't seen 2 in a while, but in 1 there's not really any lore, but to me, I mean the grandmother isn't even in this movie. Really,
Yeah,
she's at the
really,
birthday
yeah.
party, and at one point you hear in the background, "Oh, grandma's over," but there's no like kind of indication that
there's one scene where she comes over before the end, and she's talking mad
pressuring.
shit about Dennis.
Yeah,
and she's saying
yeah,
the girls miss their father, who I
Yeah.
assume is.
I mean,
The
there's more
devil.
set up for that than the grandmother in Hereditary, really, because all we get is secondhand accounts from her friend after she dies at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So the thing about this movie is like talking about its like lore and stuff. I think when you choose to make this movie, you get some positives and negatives. So positives
Mhm.
are it's fucking cheap as shit to make and easy.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't care about period accuracy.
But
just toss a Teddy Ruxpin in there.
exactly, yeah. But the negatives are things like you're beholden. So this is a haunting. So you have so it's found footage, but it's essentially a haunting movie. And so like this is just chock full of tropes. Yeah, it's got the standard pull the sheet off the fucking bed. It's got
The hair.
it's got the standard a kid is, again, with this being the third in the franchise, like how many movies can you make where one of the most like iconic scenes is just somebody like standing next to your bed and watching you sleep while the
that's his signature move.
camera speeds through, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, that was iconic in the first one, and they're kind of bringing it back in this one, but it's just like when a majority of your movie is just kind of mostly like kind of played out tropes and just some jump scares of there's a little girl standing behind you or the babysitter jumps out and says boo, and like that's you're hanging moments on that. It feels really thin, and like I'm typically the one who's like really jumping at all of these things, and I was even in like kind of Camp Drew space during this watch where I was just like, this is kind of boring. Like
this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
I couldn't give myself I couldn't give myself in too much this time around. And like the witches thing, it's like kind of cool, but I also didn't feel like it was completely earned. It just kind of felt like it happened, and I was like, okay, yeah, okay. But
and I think
like, I didn't feel like it was like, I don't know.
I have that same sort of like mixed gut feeling here, where it's like the thing is, once you strip away the thrill ride aspect of it, it just starts really showing its scaffolding really badly, and it is like again like it's like riding through a haunted house with the lights on, where you can see that the skeleton is held by wires and shit. And it's not scary. It's a little interesting, and you're like, oh, I see what they're doing there. Oh, that's a nifty idea to do as a scare. Oh, cool. But like the lore itself is kind of interesting, and it's but it becomes the reason the franchise continues. It seems like, as opposed, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like from this point, it just seems like at the end of this movie, they just start like really fixating, and they've got really like they got some pretty hard lines to work within from that point on.
Yeah.
And I don't think it benefits the franchise as a whole, personally.
I think this movie, even on a rewatch, there's at least 3 sequences that like stood out to me as like really solid set pieces and like good, effective scares. The first one we had already mentioned, it's like the ghost sheet that just sort of like vanishes and drops. Super simple, easy effect. I still think that works well. The kitchen again in the kitchen where like the table and like all the utensils and everything like flies up to the ceiling and then drops all at the same time. Still pretty effective. And I think that probably the most effective one is where the Randy family friend or whatever is hanging out with Christy, and she wants to play Bloody Mary, and he gets scratched, and the table gets knocked over and shit. Like that whole sequence is still like pretty scary. Like the Randy character is selling it pretty well, because he's obviously fucking terrified, but he keeps saying like, I'm okay, you're okay.
He does sell that.
I did like that. Yeah.
I like his like God be with me, like just kind of like panic mode, but also I'm the adult. Like he really does sell that.
Yeah.
However,
sorry, go ahead.
However, in that so that's a positive in a way, but also negative, because I was like, there's no way in hell I would leave that bathroom and start picking up furniture.
Same.
What?
It
just totally kills the mood of like,
grab that kid.
It's an earthquake.
Yeah,
it's an earthquake. Let's just hang out in this house and I'll clean up the furniture until your parents get. No, I'm going to fucking Baskin Robbins or some shit. Like I am not.
Your life is about cream.
I'm just saying, I'm taking that kid.
I am the cream.
I'm taking
Meet me
that
at the
kid
31
to a
flavors. Your house is on.
Hey, I got a crisis going on.
I gotta go to church. Baskin,
I
I'm
need
on the
31
way.
scoops, motherfucker. Now.
I'm just like there's a million other places you can go to not keep a child in a house where a demon is fucking with you. Because this is after he has seen the sheet footage, which again, this is another thing. I like these characters, but their reactions just pull me out sometimes, because I'm in no way do you see a sheet vanish and be like,
and you're like,
yeah,
whoa.
badass.
Like,
let's just keep filming. It's like, no,
That's
what?
You know what I
metal,
noticed?
baby.
Yeah,
You know what I noticed about them reviewing that footage was like they're watching it and it's like it pans over and there's the ghost is standing there, like the sheet with the ghost figure in it, and there's no reaction at all to that. It's just like, oh, and then it's like, and then
Charlie
it drops
Brown
and
head ass.
oh, it's like, wait a minute, are we
No,
not concerned about
I've
the
seen
figure
Peanuts, it's
alone?
fine.
Like, it is extra scary that it drops, like. But like, there's somebody in your fucking house with a babysitter, dude. If nothing else, like,
and the effect on the babysitter, where it clearly like pushes on her or whatever. I mean, it's like it's one thing if you're like, you would even have to stretch it to take this type of route, but even if you were like, okay, there's a ghost or something that could move objects, like, oh, a sheet, oh, that's pretty intriguing, which that's even a stretch. But like, once you can see it can physically interact with you, push on you, and that's where the children are sleeping, who would do that?
it's real dumb. And like, that's the thing, is like, I
that.
agree with you, like I say that we like these characters, but what I really mean is that we don't actively dislike these characters, which is
fair.
plaguing the first 2 movies,
Yeah.
if I recall the second one well, and I definitely remember that, and that being the case in the first one. So like, you don't want them to be you want them to be smart enough to escape. You want the best for them, so to speak, but they ultimately like can't make the right decision, just as a method of making sure we get the celluloid we need to understand what's going to happen. But then they don't do shit like follow up on the fever that the little girl had. That shit just vanished. It was just an excuse to get everybody out of the house but those 2 characters.
For a good scare, the Randy guy, he does a lot of stuff right and a lot of stuff wrong, because he does, after the fact, try and talk sense into his buddy Dennis, and he's like, you have got to tell your wife, like, what the fuck are you doing? How are you keeping this stuff from your wife? And he eventually does tell her, but she doesn't believe somehow, which is also kind of nuts. Like, I mean, I guess she doesn't watch the footage. She refuses.
He
to watch
does.
the
Well,
tape.
yeah. At first, that was another stupid thing. He hands her the
You're
book.
gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong?
Grow up, bro. So yeah, he goes to explain it to her, and he hands her the book about witches first.
Right.
Like,
Right.
And yeah, he sets up all this like
it's like, I can
Start with
the
show
real-
you a ghost. I can show it to you.
what do you like? What are you, a fucking like, storyteller hour? Just show your wife the insane footage of shit moving and babysitters being scared half to death, and you'll have an understanding of why your kids are scared and want to get out of your house. On that basis,
Step
you
into
talk
the
about the
editing
coven
bay.
later. Like the coven can come second. You show the fucking terrifying demon footage first.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you
I don't
gotta
know, man.
address. That's like say, yeah, that's because it's like having like a big open wound and being like, we're not gonna dress this first and then take some antibiotics. It's like you need to
Yeah.
like stop the bleeding, like so. Yeah, that was a really dumb move, and that's a problem with this movie is in order for this to keep going in the way that they need it to go so it's consistent with a Paranormal Activity franchise film, they have to just constantly keep doing things that don't make a lick of sense.
Exactly. And like it works, it can only work so many times, which is why to me, like if you want it to be a found footage thing, pursue that by way of ultimately becoming an anthology series. That is fine. We've seen how that can work. Like fucking VHS does that on a small scale.
Yeah.
Like why not? But then if you want to pursue the lore, then you don't have to be committed to that format. You don't have to commit to both.
That's
And
what
I
I
feel
would say.
I feel like they were funded on the basis of they have to do both. So I don't know.
The franchise just makes too much fucking money for them to like stop. Really,
yeah, but it costs so little. It's clear that they can fuck one up and still be fine. So go for it. Like
I feel like I would go. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of it.
They
It's
did a
like
3D
so cheap
one,
to make.
why not?
I would almost rather have like like okay, documentary makes sense. Like you can still keep that kind of aesthetic but switch it up. I mean, this movie is so similar to the first one in that we're just going to set up 3 to 4 static cameras and we're going to hit you with a lot of the same things. Somebody stands next to your bed and watches you sleep. Somebody, there's, and also too, it's like
Dust
the
or
tropes of the
smoke.
little kid. Yeah. Like, she's running back and forth. She's standing on the table. And I was like, this time around, it didn't do anything for me at all.
I don't know why, but like every time Toby wants to fuck with the kitchen, just the kitchen specifically, wants to ruin the kitchen. He hates food.
He wants to disrespect your kitchen. That's what Toby's about. I do think these child actors are doing a pretty good job. I mean, Christy gets the majority of the screen time, and I think she's effectively creepy, even if you're not necessarily into like the things they're having her do. I think she's showing up and putting her creep on. It works.
Yeah, she doesn't have to do that much, and I think she accomplishes what she's there to do. I wouldn't say that it's a standout situation necessarily, but like kid actors can be a lot fucking worse than that. That's for damn sure. Any actor can be a lot worse than that, actually. So
most of the performances, I don't have any issues with really any of the performances in this movie.
I don't think I do either.
Doing pretty well. This movie does also have like kind of a long list of really cheap jump scares too. It's got some effective earned scares, but there's like one sequence where Julie like has on a Halloween mask and jumps out and scares Dennis. And there's this
babysitter.
I'm sorry. She says like boo into the camera and hey Dennis or whatever. Dennis goes to like check on the girls like in the middle of the night, and Julie wakes up and he like walks back into the room, but like sprints through the door, but there's no emergency. He just fucking sprints
just so he can bang the door open like
crap. Yeah.
Just little things like that are kind of like make a real scary fucking thing if you're gonna do a loud noise, like it just kind of isn't my favorite thing to
filling a runtime with I don't know. Like I don't mind a mislead scare. Like I'm not or a jump scare in general. Like if this franchise is all jump scares, which it tends to mostly be, minus the ghosts scare, like that's fine, I think, for the most part. It's just yeah, you like you said, it doesn't feel like these are cheap jump scares. There is a key difference.
Yeah.
They're easy to buy. You just have a cat jump in front of the camera for a second or whatever, and you got.
I love a good cat scare. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
well,
that's
yeah,
like a drinking
you
moment.
get one.
Like, take a shot. Like yeah, you get one per movie.
Everybody gets one.
You don't need to do that 4 times in a movie, and this movie does it at least 4 times that I can think of.
Well, and it feels like that kind of like round the corner pop-up haunted house, which I'm reluctant to say that because sometimes those are better. But
I love those.
Yeah,
but they're charming.
Well,
like,
my kind of point is the jump scares feel cheap because it feels like they have to put them in there for you to feel like you got your money's worth.
yeah, maybe.
Like the ghost really doesn't start showing up until around, minute 50 or whatever, or at least like the cool shit. And so if they didn't have those jump scares, you would be like, the more regulars would be like, okay, I'm not getting scared at all. And so it's kind of like a cheap way to fill that space.
It is. And you know what? There's other ways you can like help immersion, and they just don't. This is why like the time period issue is such a big one for me, because imagine how much scarier this movie is if they actually filmed on a camcorder and transferred it over. Like VHS, you can find that shit at a dump, and you can it's basically free. And you can film your whole movie on it, and it gives it period accuracy. You give people like throw the women in those dresses with puffy arms or some shit, puffy shoulders.
Throw them in there.
Like throw them in there, and like do more than a Teddy Ruxpin. Have kids not say like very common 2005 nomenclature, like responding to people like, "Oh, seriously," and shit like that. Like
the one thing that really stood out to me was Dennis when they're about to get jiggy with it in their bedroom.
Yes.
He says, bow chicka bow wow. And I was like, no motherfucker in 1988 saying bow chicka bow wow.
That's like a joke that purely exists in the year this movie was made. Like that joke was birthed and died the same year, 2005.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did like the slight nod to Poltergeist though, when they're hanging out on the bed, smoking a fatty, and like, enjoying each other's time. And so I liked that. I thought that was a nice little moment. But the Bow Chicka Bow Wow kind of took me out.
See, I like that, except then what it does again, I also too kind of, like the kitchen scene, but then that's where it starts, you can like do a nod, but then like when one of your 5 maybe scares comes down to like you're really just kind of like cribbing off a Poltergeist, then it's I don't know, it's just that's why it's like this movie is either based on cheap jump scares or just like played out tropes. And
and all
on
that's
that
left
second
beyond that
rewatch,
is like a little bit of lore, which
exactly,
really
like
abuse
let's
in the
have
future.
some lore at the end, and it's like, I guess that's some lore, but do I really care? I don't know. I don't
dislike the lore in this one.
I don't
just
either.
Don't like what that spells for the rest of the franchise, because it just becomes too centerpieced in the whole thing as a way of being like, oh, so what's Toby up to this time and shit like that. I don't know, man.
It is slightly confusing to me because in 2005 we see Christy pregnant, and then like in 1988 we see this little girl like going upstairs with this demon to like get ready, and like when does she like date the devil until like 2005, or like does she bear multiple sons for the devil, or like that was what's going on exactly? There's a large time gap here.
I don't know, because
she was
wearing.
I think they're waiting
wedding.
for the male heir. I think that's what's happening. Is they're waiting for the male heir to come along. Is the whole thing, and that's what the second one is about. Is the male baby being kidnapped?
Yeah, okay, maybe I'm misremembering something from part 2 that would fill that gap for me. Then I really don't remember much about it.
So yeah, like Justin, you were saying, I don't remember the lore. Like, I didn't either. I had to go and rewatch some stuff. I was like, now this is all connecting. I mostly got it, but like
because the second one is
one that it's kind of a blind spot for me.
The the sister and the brother who have the baby, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then yeah.
Yeah.
And without getting into
I
spoiler
remember
territory
how
there,
that
it's
one
like-
ends. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So that does make some more sense because, well, it was kind of weird too because at the end of this one, yeah, the grandmother has one of the girls and she's wearing this kind of like wedding thing. And she's like, oh, who's the lucky? And the mom even says something like, who's the lucky guy? And she's like, Toby. I thought that was the youngest girl, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that's not the girl who ends up having a baby.
Well, that's in the second one explained. It is.
Is it? Okay. So,
No,
okay.
it is. No, that is the woman who ends up having the baby. It's a whole thing. But like
I thought the
Toby
youngest
chases
one who's
each of them
talking to
into
Toby is the girl from the first movie.
no.
No,
Katie
those are
is the
different.
older
Really?
daughter who is in the first movie.
Okay. Oh, okay.
In the second movie, what happens, and this is spoilers for the second one, is the dad of that family, in order to save Kylie or what? Not Katie, the younger girl,
Christy.
from he does a spell that puts it onto Katie instead, and that's chronologically
Okay.
the beginning of the
Okay.
first movie.
I gotcha.
Gotcha. Okay. That helps.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. That okay, I
But
gotcha.
but the Katie's sister still does have the male child, so that explains probably what you remember about the second one.
Okay, yeah. That makes some sense. All right. Well,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So
all right.
there's like lore that works, I think, for the most
It's
part up until this
consistent,
movie.
yeah.
I can't speak too much about the future because it does like my memory is a little too
Doesn't
hazy
it go
for
to
that,
like
but
Mexico or something?
It does. There's like this that's the one that Bob mentioned, the marked ones, which
Yeah.
I like after like remembering a little bit more about it. I was like, yeah, I did kind of like that one. They took some bigger swings with the lore that made some cool visual things happen.
It's like a
but
fresh story with a new family, and
Okay.
it kind of opens itself
it
up
ties
a little
in
bit.
eventually. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
It does. But then like
Um,
the sixth one becomes just like a 3D movie bullshit.
I never saw
Ah.
that. I stopped at 5, so like 6 and
Yeah.
7.
I saw some
Not
stuff. I
seen.
hadn't either, but having seen what I saw just on the YouTube video, I'm good.
The
Oh,
the
yeah.
ghost dimension and the next
Yeah.
of kin
Oh,
aren't
Yeah,
good.
I'll check out Next of Kin. That one intrigues me because it breaks format. Like that's the thing is like
Yeah.
you have this cool thing. I understand why this movie got popular because of certain things in the first one, but that doesn't mean if you're going to keep making it, you cannot like just 100% do the same thing and expect the same results. Even fucking Friday the 13th knew that. That's why they took him to goddamn space and shit.
Hell
like,
yeah.
They at least started to break format a little bit, even though there's still like the core conceits are there. You can do the same thing and that's because it's lore based. If they're going to focus on lore, break the format. If you're going to focus on found footage, break the story. You don't have to be adhered to one or the other, but I think you're right that like because they're making so much money, they're afraid to deviate, which is I think also one of the reasons they didn't go hyper analog and they tried to make we need to make it more approachable for today's audiences. So we'll just throw in a Teddy Ruxpin and call it a day. Or I feel like that was definitely a conversation that was had, and they just decided not to go really anachronistic, and it was a huge mistake because that's an immersion builder. That's a huge benefit to be able to do that in a found footage movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I
I agree
know.
with you. Generally speaking, I think you're correct. Yeah, I don't. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we rate this movie?
I'm good.
Toby's a dumb name for a demon.
Toby. I'm waiting for Paranormal Activity X. Toby in space. Let's do it.
Toby.
This whole franchise is a prequel to The
Makes
Office.
me think of The Office, yeah. And which The
There's
Office
just-
was already out at this point, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
They just didn't
2006
turn it, I
or
think.
some shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just bed sheets floating in space, just single
Goodbye,
utensils being
Toby.
thrown around. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and rate this movie out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Paranormal Activity 3?
Dude, they totally could do Paranormal Activity 3 because then you'd be in the space station and you can't leave, and that justifies the cameras, right? It's a
Justifies the cameras
scientific.
immediately.
Yep,
People
there you go.
watching on Earth,
There you go.
and
There you
and
go.
they're talking to NASA trying to figure out how to solve the problem and
Boom.
understand
Nailed
it
it.
with scientific-minded people.
We
That
gotta
actually
get it.
works a lot better than Jason
Actually,
X.
it
Yeah.
does.
It does.
That's pretty good. So yeah, I feel like this is just like very paint by numbers. it was like pretty effective the first time you watch it, or like, effective enough. I agree with the whole, like, it loses its effectiveness once you are out of that kind of setting and like hyping yourself up. And I think this works a lot better if you don't know a lot of the tropes that are coming. Again, this is a pretty good like theater watch. It comes out, you understand why a lot of like young people want to go see it, get that experience. But as like a kind of narrative and the idea too of like, oh, well, it's adding this lore. And it's like, it is, but I mean, does that really amount to much or anything? I still feel like it's about the experience. It would be like saying like, "Oh, that haunted house really had a great lore." It's like,
It's a consolation prize.
yeah, it's like, okay, maybe it did, but um so I just there was some cool effective things. I really did like the sheet. I like the kitchen scene. Even,
Like
when
that sheet.
when Dennis dies, that was like pretty brutal. I like the relationship that he has. I like it starts to I wish they kind of would have kept it more consistent with how they play it off at the beginning, where when they seem supportive and communicate and kind of loving and like together on things. And so it doesn't make that much sense for you to then see a ghost on screen and it like potentially hurting somebody and you not bring it up to your partner with the kids in the house. That just doesn't make sense, especially for the characters that they set up at the beginning of this film.
Mhm.
They're so beholden to this format and the like restrictions that they put on themselves to keep that format alive, that it unfortunately creates a situation where like a lot of this is hard to believe. Like nobody would stay in that house. Like maybe the babysitter wouldn't say something out of fear of like she'd be crazy or like or something like that, but not Randy. I don't know. And then yeah, so it's got like a handful of okay moments. Like the general feeling throughout it is pretty solid, but it's nothing special. And so for that, I'll give this one, I'll say it's like pretty pretty medium, I'll give it like 2.5. I think is fair. It's okay. And in a setting like that was maybe around like spooky time, if you could get some people together and like really get those like scares back, or like really feed into it. Yeah, I still think it could be effective in that way. But on your own after the fact, yeah, in a well lit room where you're just like, oh man, I gotta get through this for this week's show. Then it's like,
It's
not as great. I'm not gonna
It's
lie.
very context dependent. This
It
movie.
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. Out of 5, Bo Bear, what you giving this one? 3, number 3.
Yeah, these movies do lack potency on rewatches. They were churning these out like every October, so it was the perfect time to go watch this new like haunted house type movie in a dark theater with real loud sound, so those jump scares hit extra hard with some of your friends around
Mhm.
Halloween, and it's fresh. You don't know what to expect. Like the jump scares are fresh, whether they're earned or not. You're still gonna shit your drawers sitting in your seat, and like that is a really fun experience first time round. And that's why these movies, I think, generally um, are reflected upon positively in my memory. I think about watching the majority of this franchise and having a pretty good time with it. Um, but yeah, they do they lose the potency once you kind of know what's coming. And like the first time you see a time lapse of Katie standing bedside watching her husband, what's his face, sleep for like 8 hours, it's fucking freaky. But after you see it like 5, 10 times, it's like, okay, it doesn't work quite as well. Um, in these movies, again, like once you kind of know where those scares are happening, there's not a ton to hold on to with like the depth of these characters or their arcs. There is no score happening in these movies either. There's like some really low tones that kind of rumble your butthole, specifically in the theater, but there's no score to like pull you in like that. And the cinematography in these movies can be really inventive and also effective, and they usually come up with like one like new idea to like throw in per movie or something like that, and the oscillating fan camera here is kind of what we're playing with, and I love that idea. I wish they did more with the cinematography, though. It's limiting, of course, because it has to like make sense as to why there's like a handy cam around in this particular movie. But you could have like the ghost knock it over. Hell, the ghost can move literally. I mean, have the ghost pick it up and start filming some crazy shit, or I don't know, just try some new things with it, because the vast majority of this is like static camera, or people filming stuff where in the back of your head you're kind of like, there's really no way they'd be filming this right now. It's kind of confusing. Just there's other options and ways to be inventive, and I kind of wish they did a little more with that. It's limiting because it's found footage, but in that way, it can force you to be like really inventive. So we get a little bit of that in this. I think the characters are played well. The actors do a good job, specifically the child actors. I think Christy, the little girl, is super creepy. It does add some of that lore with the coven of witches, and I think that's pretty interesting, because if that wasn't here and it was just a handful of like ghosty jump scares again, which I think, if memory serves, that's basically what part 4 does, and it's one of my least favorite. Like, they just don't really do a whole lot new. So I liked that the addition of the coven and all that stuff. It is like a little freaky deaky because like, what are they going upstairs for at the end? Like, these little girls, are they about to get impregnated by this demon? Like, is that what's happening? I'm not really sure. Kind of not the best thing to consider at the end of the movie. But overall, I think there's more good than bad in this. So I'm gonna come in a little higher. There's some solid scares. There are some solid scares. The Bloody Mary thing really got me pretty fucking good, even on the rewatch. And the ghost, and of course the kitchen utensils and the table and all that shit. Really, they hit pretty well. I'm gonna come in with a 3 out of 5, a little higher than Juice on this one. Ray and Deezy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm largely going to echo what you guys said. Like, I think that the comparison to a haunted house ride is very apt, and I honestly think that if you had asked me right after I watched this movie, my score would be substantially higher than what I'm going to give it today, and I'm going to try and split the difference a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, because on the second run through, it really shows its wires too damn much. It shows where it's really stretching to give you a scare. It shows, it's, I don't know, all those things that fall apart, and all that's left is like a little pocket of semi-interesting, but ultimately not worth coming back to lore, in my opinion. I do think that last sequence is great because it goes back to basics of like found footage of a guy carrying a camera down a dark and spooky hallway. In fact, the scariest jump scare to me was the reveal of the coven in the spare, whatever, the shed or whatever, as the I forget the character's name, but the male in the relationship is sneaking his way around trying to find his family.
Dennis.
It's just very context dependent. If I'm not like, I think that like the first time I watched it, it was in a theater. It was on Halloween time. Anyway, it was around Halloween, right around there. It was loud. It was fun. Like, and it was new. I didn't know exactly where it was going. I was pleased that with the lore at the end more than I am now, because it was like, oh, they added something. And like Bob said, they did for a while, for most of them, try and introduce a new camera trick or something to the mix to give it some level of freshness, if not quite enough. So this second time around, it lost all of that, and it suffered so much for that like the reason I'm interested in found footage movies is because of the immersion, and all those things hurt immersion. And my biggest sin, in my opinion, the most avoidable sin, is the modern feel of it in this movie, that you could have really amped up some of those, used some of that grainy footage, some of that like fun, like maybe I don't know what the deterrence was to that. I don't know if it was a studio call or like somehow it was a money call. I can't imagine how it would be, but for whatever reason they didn't do that, and that could have pushed this back to the top of my list on its own, because it helps with immersion. It helps sell forward the concept of your movie, and therefore helps you feel more like in the shoes of these people. So I don't know. I'm a little soured on it, and my sort of middle of the road score between my first viewing and second viewing is going to be a 2.75.
Whoa. I'm still the lowest? Wow.
2 3/4 from Rand DZ.
I would have
over
done 2.5
here.
myself, but like the first time I watched it, I really liked it, and like I don't want to like completely write that off because in
You're
the right
just a
context, this
naive
movie
little
can
shit
work.
back then, Randy. That's all.
I,
Grow up.
All
Bow
right.
chicka bow wow. That's gonna
Ugh.
put
We
our
need that
aggregate
sound bump whenever the yabos start popping.
no, I think Bob's got it covered.
cut and paste. That's going to put our aggregate at a 2.75 for Paranormal Activity 3. Our boy Gabe, who chose the movie tonight, did send in an email with his own thoughts. Let's hear what he's got to say. Juice, do you have that?
I do. Ready? Here we go. Hello, gentlemen. First, I'm honored in helping getting the Paranormal Activity series up and running for discussion on the best horror podcast around. Whoa, didn't even have to make that up. Thanks, guy.
Sure, you did. Sure.
Fake it till you make it, right, boys?
Eventually, they just start writing nice things about you.
Just lie constantly. It's fine.
If you keep feeding them the lines, they'll eventually say it themselves.
Just fake it till you make it. The Chernobyl story.
The soju stain story. I chose part 3 because I found this movie the scariest of the franchise, and it serves as the prequel, and really, to me, anything involving kids and horror is frightening. Seeing the oldest Katie as a child character is interesting to watch, since she is not the main protagonist like in the first film, because she was never the real target of the two sisters, as you learn in part 2. Okay, there we go. Yet she's being tormented just as much as this one. Obviously, this type of found footage may not be scary for everyone. Like the Blair Witch Project and the first 2 Paranormal Activity movies, the idea of not seeing what is supposed to be terrifying you and instead having to use your imagination of what's happening in the moment is sometimes more scary than what you're actually seeing, or than what is actually being seen. The jump scares are constant and still effective throughout, and the creepy conversation that is going on between Chrissy and Toby is spooky. Teddy Ruxpin, by the way, was scary back then. Nice reminder of that. I find the comedy in these films always funny. Randy's the comic relief in this one. I always laugh out loud when he says she got blown in the face, and then has that laugh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
not
okay.
realistic, but whatever. The whole hot babysitter scenes are my favorite, with her mocking Dennis and unknowingly Toby. Her being downstairs alone when the ghost is covered with the sheet, creeping me out behind her, and now she's all ready to leave once the mom gets home is good stuff. The Bloody Mary scene, also involving Randy, works almost better, if not better, than any Candyman mirror scene. Whoa, now, whoa. In my opinion, because again, it's your imagination that takes control. It's got to be tough to keep your composure after being scratched by an entity, all the while trying to keep Katie calm after what has just occurred, even though it was her idea to play. Good job by him. And quick question, is it normal to allow their 6 and 8-year-old daughters to be out camping alone at night in the backyard?
It was the 80s. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay, I guess.
When I was watching, Beck was watching with me, and they were like, when at some point somebody was leaving, and maybe it was when the babysitter was closing up behind the parents, and she locked the door, and Becky's like, it was the 80s. Nobody locks the doors in the 80s. It's like, that might be true.
Yeah. Julie and Dennis I found likable as a couple throughout, and Dennis is definitely likable as a potential stepfather to the girls. Oddly, I didn't feel any sadness when they got killed, and I can't explain why that is, because like I said, they were likable. Dennis seeing the old woman coming towards him and his death scene were both really effective, though. The grandmother's involvement I wasn't crazy about too much, but definitely gives some clarity as to why the cult is taking place with the family. When Christy is being dressed up as a bride and she says Toby is the lucky guy, and the grandmother says nothing. What the fuck? Do I sense Cooter of the Week? The camera work is
marriage to the beast.
It literally was. The camera work isn't your typical found footage quality, as they are obviously more HD looking than the first Paranormal Activity movie, and the fact this taking place in the 80s takes a little bit away from the watching experience. Overall, though, I think the movie still holds up as one of the creepiest movies of the last 12 years, as long as you don't try to rewatch this film too much. And I'm saying And saying that I would give this movie 4.25 out of 5. Keep chilling. Hashtag hard with soju. Okay.
That last line was made up.
Nope.
Yep.
No, it's not.
He said hashtag rigid with Bob.
Whoa.
If that's what
That's
you
what he
want,
said.
Bob, and that's the line you want to feed the masses.
They'll start saying it back.
In the file.
It's not in the file. That was-
All right. So let us know. Are you hashtag hard with soju or hashtag rigid with Bob?
I don't want a hashtag. Thank you.
Hashtag no hashtag Randy.
I'm gonna pass on that one.
So yeah, thanks,
Shit,
gang.
I want to throw up.
That was a very well thought out email, actually very thorough, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we largely agree with you, especially the part about the rewatching of the movie. I think it loses some of that potency. But there's definitely some scary shit in here, for sure.
For sure.
One of the scariest movies of the past 12 years is a bold statement, but hey, man, if it works for you, it works for you. It was scary the first time I watched it, for sure. I remember watching the original Paranormal Activity in theaters for the first time. I was like losing my fucking shit. It wrecked me.
Yeah.
But they reused some of that formula and it loses its effectiveness over time a little bit. But man, I remember that theater screening so clearly. Fucked me up real good.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again for picking this week's flick and sharing some of your thoughts about Paranormal Activity 3, Gabe.
Thanks, Gabe.
Hope you're doing well.
Thank
and
you, Gabe.
Congratulations on grabbing that You Picked the Flick.
Whoa, we've already been through 2.
Dude, I know. 2 of the
Making our way
second
through.
quarter already. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Paranormal Activity 3.
Certified.
Thanks, Bob. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these two gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the critic and user's aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start, as we usually do, with the critics. Let's go to Juice today to start. Juice, what do you think that the 126 reviews aggregate to in terms of positivity?
I don't think this is going to be like, I think it's going to be one of the ones where the critics are going to be lower than the audience score, would be my guess.
Okay.
I think they might be a little bit more like tired or played out of this kind of like format. But I think it'll still be like okay, positive. So I'll take the 69 dudes.
69 dudes. Bob, how about yourself?
Yeah, this is a tough one, honestly. I don't see it as a critical darling, but I don't think critics would like hate it though either. So it's 69 is a pretty good bet. I could see them being real high on the first one and then kind of just going down with each installment. I'm gonna go a little lower, I think, with a 65, please.
65. All right. Well, it's not gonna take much tabulating here. Bob, congratulations. The number was 66.
No.
Should have kept your mind out of the gutter, Juice. You done fucked up.
Oh, I gotta get it.
Never. Don't you put that on me.
Maybe when we're doing this in our 60s, I'll grow up a little bit, but we got a
when
while.
you finally hit 69, all of a sudden
You mean in 2173?
Yeah, we got about 45 more years until that happens. So,
oh boy.
Sure.
Let's move on to our audience score before anybody starts doing any math. There's
that's a lot of
50,
episodes to go, boys.
There's 50,000 plus ratings in the audience sector. We're going to start with Bob on this one. Bob, where do you think those 50,000 plus ratings put this film?
Yeah, definitely higher. But how high do we go? Let's take the 75, please.
Yeah, but I could tell you were really struggling with that one because the syllables came out like fucking drips.
You're
Juice.
welcome. Like molasses.
Yeah, I
like
think,
molasses falling from your mouth.
I was gonna take that guess as well, but I'll go slightly lower. I'll say 72.
70 deuce. Well, Juice, congratulations. This is a
thank God. Thank God.
51% from the
Damn.
audience.
Whoa,
That's
is
surprising.
I fear that you guys forgot how divisive this movie is.
Really? I
This
didn't
franchise
think it was
is.
most divisive. Like
I
thought
started this podcast telling the tale of the two genders
Yeah.
of paranormal
Well,
activity
yeah.
worship. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It's either
Okay.
either you get it or you think it's the dumbest shit possible, and you
That's
think those
fair.
people gave it more than 1 star?
That's
Nah.
fair. Okay.
Um,
All right. Well,
haters.
either way, hell yeet, Bob.
I didn't get my Hellskate. I'm still waiting on that.
I mean, you never give me. I have to give myself the hell yeet. So the responsibility falls
lovely.
on you.
I'm really sorry for you. You okay?
Oh God, let's move on.
I thought that was a
Critics
bump.
No, that was that was
I
real
did
time
sound like
exasperation.
it.
Just Randy
Um,
shitting his pants.
Here's the critics' consensus. While the jolts and thrills are undeniably subject to the diminishing returns that plague most horror sequels, Paranormal Activity 3 is surprisingly spine-tingling treat. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna jump. Yeah, well, maybe it was fine. It's not great. Paranormal Activity. Let's look at the negative reviews. Let's find one that
There's
is
gotta be a
hilarious.
funny
And there's
one
quite
here.
a few.
Yeah,
I
there's
might just
gotta
read a
be
few,
one.
and I know we're gonna hit gold somewhere. Let's see. A cataclysmic abomination of a film, forever tarnishing the reputation of one of the better horror movies of the past decades.
There we go.
Man.
That's
Damn.
a little bit of an overreaction.
Yeah.
Somebody committed fucking seppuku after watching this movie.
Damn.
Fuck this. Ah!
You ruined Paranormal Activity.
An institution in this country.
For 2
Damn.
whole films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This classic that came out 2 years ago, you've ruined it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Fucking to tarnish the reputation forever and ever. Amen.
Because 2 is so good.
Yeah. Oh man. Sorry, ghosts dropping spoons just doesn't scare me anymore.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
Wow.
That's
That's
the
all that
winner.
happens in this
That's
movie,
the
guys.
winner.
It's just spoons falling. It's the whole movie. They're just spoons.
So there's this ghost, right? And he's got these spoons, and then he
He's like,
drops.
"Ooh, give me your spoons."
Okay.
His name is Blueberry, and he's coming for your spoon.
My boy Blueberry, damn.
That dude's got a spoon up his ass.
Dude.
Oh my
All
god.
right. That'll
What a
do it.
takeaway.
I know.
You know what doesn't
man.
do it for me? Ghost dropping spoons.
All he does is drop
If-
spoons. He
If,
doesn't
if they cut the
impregnate
spoons
children
out
or
of this
anything.
movie, this guy would have had an orgasmic experience. But god
Dude.
damn it, they had to drop that spoon, and it just
The-
ruins the whole thing. Tarnish the
theme-
reputation.
The theme song is Spoon Bang from who is that?
Spoon
Soundgarden?
Bang.
Or,
Throw me
Spoon
together
dart.
with your cereal. Hey,
oh
man.
my. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it for the Rotten Tomatoes segment.
What
Bob,
a weird song.
play us out.
Yeah. Let's talk
Yeah.
about some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Play us out with
All right,
Spoon
boys.
Bang, Bob. Tonight.
Spoon Man. Yeah. We have the rights.
Yeah.
We paid for that.
I just secured them. Don't worry. I just.
Oh, I know you did. I know.
We
it.
just got the cheapo version called fucking Fork
Fork
Man. That took
Man.
too long. The timing just got completely fucked on that.
It took a long time.
Forks and spoons,
What's
right?
the other one? What do we eat with?
Boss,
Not our hands.
I got a funny
not
joke for you.
spoons.
I think it's Blue Raja.
Mm.
That's a
Nice.
deep pull,
Yep.
dude. Damn.
That just warmed my soul a little bit. I love that.
If
That
you
warmed
know,
my
you know.
You know,
Fuck
the
off.
Blue Raja.
Shouts outs to
A
waxing
racist
the porpoise.
caricature.
It's from Mystery Man.
I
If you know.
That's I was listening to waxing the porpoise
Yeah.
lately. They'll know what I'm talking about. If you know,
I
you
listened
know.
to I listen to that too. That does get annoying as fuck. I love hearing these old men bitch about colloquialisms because I agree like 90% of the time. Like, you know what? Fuck that.
That's like the basis of talk radio. Do you understand that?
Oh God damn it.
We're becoming an AM station.
Yeah, you're
every
becoming
passing
your
minute.
father.
We all are. We all are. I have some trivia. There's not a shitload. Let me blast through some of this real quick. Christy, the little girl, actually was losing her tooth. That wasn't fake. There you go. There's some trivia.
Yeah, you could tell. I was like, they definitely wrote this into the movie.
That shit freaks me out.
This was the highest grossing film in the Paranormal Activity franchise. So the original movie cost $230,000 to make and grossed $194 million worldwide.
Nice.
This one upped the ante, cost $5 million and grossed $270 million.
Where did that $5 million go?
I don't know, man.
What?
It didn't go to the fucking.
It went into someone's
2000s
pockets.
McMansion they booked for the set.
You know,
what?
I bet your boy Blumhouse was real pissed when he saw this. He's like, "What happened to the other $4 million?"
Yeah, seriously.
It went to that catfish show.
Yeah, this fucking catfish. This franchise really was though, like, you know, the franchise that built the Blumhouse, so to speak. Like, this was their big breakout.
Yeah, good call.
That's true.
They had like 4 or 5 movies before the first Paranormal Activity, and none of them I'd really even heard of. This shit blew the fuck up though, and then the next year, instead of producing like 5 movies, it was like 20. They would just fucking went ham.
We just need one big break.
Moment of glory.
And then we'll
that's a sound clip from Mr. Jason Blum. That's exactly what it sounds like.
And now we turn it over to Jason Blum. What do you got to say about your new hit film, Paranormal Activity?
In my moment of glory.
Thank you, Jason.
I wish he was a roided out wrestler looking motherfucker. I like to make the horror film. Real street-like. Let the cream rise to the top.
That would be fabulous.
That would be great.
That'd be nuts. That dude would just be on so much cocaine in reality. So much cocaine.
Wow.
Maybe he is. Who knows?
Probably.
The camera that we see in the movie is actually like the body of an old school VHS camcorder, but they just like took a high def camera, a digital camera, and stuck it inside of that.
Weak.
So
God, I hate
that's what they did
so
there.
Stupid.
Just fucking film. Even if you film it that way, throw some overlays on that thing. You got $5 million.
Yeah, you can pay for.
You
some
can afford an
plugins.
overlay.
Buy a filter. To help celebrate the DVD and Blu-ray release of Paranormal Activity 3, Paramount held a contest in which 2 winners would be flown out to LA to attend a special viewing of the film at the house in which it was filmed. The winners were picked based on trivia knowledge of the franchise, and in this instance were flown in from Michigan. Treated.
How much trivia could there be?
I don't know. It couldn't have been that much, right? And they had a private viewing of the movie and dinner with some special guests, including the filmmakers. So that's kind of neat.
Toby.
Toby was there
Toby.
impregnating you against your will to offer a sacrifice to these witches or something.
Okay, Bob. Okay.
We're not going to circle that one back down to a winner, I promise. I've been there. We're not going to do it.
Predator Bob over here.
There was, oh my God, it's what happens in the movie. There in the trailer. In the trailer for this movie, there was a lot of footage that doesn't appear in the final cut, and a lot of that had to do with a demonologist. So I guess there's just like a ton of stuff left on the cutting room floor here. We see him with like the demonology book in the movie Dennis, that is. It's not in the movie though.
That's interesting because like what I watched was labeled as the extended version, and it had nothing about that either. So they just really wrote that one off.
Damn.
Yeah. Fucking stayed on the cutting room floor. Paramount Studios once again used paranormal investigator / researcher Christopher Chacon, who is apparently recognized as one of the world's foremost authorities on paranormal phenomenon. So I guess they used this guy to publicize these movies. And I've never heard of this person before. I don't know if Christopher Chacon. C-O-N is his last name. I don't know.
I
Maybe
wanna
he's
be-
well known.
I want to be a paranormal authority.
Well,
Let's
Good
do
luck.
it, boys.
Good
look,
luck.
if you can pretend to hear a noise in an old asylum, you're in good shape.
Did you guys hear that?
I've trapped 13 Korean ghosts in my time.
This one spot is 1 degree colder than everywhere else
I
in the
can't
building.
wait to watch 13 Korean Ghosts, the movie. I can't fucking wait.
So over here we got this one ghost. She's pretty hot.
She's Korean. And this one
Totally.
over here, also.
Korean. Yeah.
Real spooky, but hot. Most importantly, hot. Apparently, this is the last bit I have here. In the static end of the movie, there is a frame that shows Dennis's and Julie's bed on fire, and this is presumably the start of the house fire that's referred to in both the first two movies.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So there you
that
go.
makes sense.
Hmm.
There you go.
That's all the trivia I got. Let's talk about Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'.
Gooder of the week!
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is there a Cooter in Paranormal Activity thrice?
Toby. It's your boy Toby.
My boy Tobes.
If I wasn't afraid of fucking NBC's legal team crashing down like the hammer of Thor upon us,
yeah,
I would have
What?
absolutely put in a bunch of hate Toby clips into the bumps situation.
All right,
Um,
so let's see. Toby, is he manipulative?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
yeah. I don't think I need
The
to
whole
explain why.
movie.
I think it's pretty clear.
It's what he does. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I think it's well
The
established.
devil is a motherfucking liar. So you know I ain't worried. Biatch.
He's also apparently he's an old man looking motherfucker. Who is hanging around with a little girl. So I don't think that's okay.
No, it's not okay. He's also torturing
Tell
one
it to
of them
Santa.
so that the other one does what he wants her to do. Like that's fucking manipulative and also pathetic, and also the sexual deviance is on lock.
If
as
he's
we've already
marrying
covered.
and impregnating children, you know,
Yeah,
can't do that.
It's not so
real-
dope.
Yeah, it's a real bad.
He
sitch.
looks stupid because you can't see him, so that checks out.
That's stupid. You look stupid.
So we got that on lock for sure. Smug
Strong
arrogance.
language from Bob over here.
I think you look like a dumb poopy head.
I can't even see you, you dumbass. Smug arrogance. Yeah, I mean he's chilling out in these people's fucking house and like throwing their shit around and breaking their lamps and scaring the babysitter and fucking disrespecting.
You just
their
described Mrs.
kitchen,
Doubtfire.
fucking up their kids. Like
we'll get
yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Dude,
we saw the best.
get to
Bob,
it. We
saw this great shirt at the Overlook Film Festival. This guy was wearing that was the Mrs. Doubtfire poster, but underneath instead of Mrs. Doubtfire had the Psycho logo.
It was perfect.
That's
The
good.
fucking best.
That's
Fucking
awesome.
perfect. I think Toby hits all five.
Yeah,
remember
I
who
think
made that.
Toby, and I don't think there's really anybody else that could be
I don't think so either.
considered. Like
Everyone else in this movie
maybe
is
the
pretty chill.
grandmother, like Gabe said, but I
Yeah.
really don't think there's enough of her in this movie. Honestly, I guess she's like manipulative.
Yes.
Oh,
if
yeah,
she's
she's
her
that.
little speech thing, and
Sexual
then
deviant.
sexual
Oh, yeah.
deviance,
To
the extent of like promoting
Yeah.
the
She's
birth of
trafficking
getting her ready.
children.
granddaughter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's human trafficking. Yeah, she's a bad piece of shit. I think we could get actually like the more I talk about it, I think that's
We
pretty
could
clear
get
cut.
her, yeah.
I don't think she's
She
gonna
looks
rank
dumb
on.
because she's old.
Jesus Christ!
Strong
we got her on a
language from
tire.
Bob here.
Oh my God! Somebody.
Her goth robe was pretty cool though, so maybe we can't give her a tire.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, we
I-
really
yeah.
just
It was
like,
goth
pissed
sex
off,
night.
Yeah,
They're
goth
listening to
section
pissed off all our
Deftones.
elderly listeners just now.
They were getting their fuck on to Deftones out in the garage, and Dennis interrupted them, and that's why they murdered him.
Yeah, you just pissed off my boy Hugh Janus, Bob, with that
God.
slander on the elderly.
He's coming for you.
My boy
Hugh
We haven't
Janus
heard-
is coming for
we
you.
haven't heard from you in a while, Hugh Janus. Call in.
I mean, no disrespect to the elderly at all. Honestly, I hope one day myself to be an elder. So here's hoping.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Nope.
if Hugh comes on next week, gives us a call and tells Rob to go fuck himself, that would be
Yeah.
a lot
That'd
of
be
fun, I
hilarious.
think.
That'd be great.
I would
Yeah.
graciously accept that.
Hope
Hugh,
you're doing
if-
well,
If you're
Hugh.
listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Hope you are doing well. Hope you're watching some cool, scary shit and having a great time. Yeah, I think we can love these two together. Grandma Lois and Toby Maguire, locked and loaded.
All
Got
right.
'em.
Got him.
I did not make that connection quickly enough. All right, yeah, lock him down.
We got him.
Locked them down. All right, boys, let's chill the fuck out and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Oh, Randeezy, what you been watching?
Well, without going into too much detail, we all, the three of us, have seen quite a few films this week. The two of us, Bob and I, were at the Overlook Film Festival in New Orleans this week. And matter of fact, it got back yesterday. But we are going to do a whole recap of that, just like last year. Juice also got quite a few screeners to burn through. Thanks to the studios for that. We'll get into more detail about that in our respective spots for that. Juice, I think you're coming up with your video about that pretty soon, yeah?
Yeah, I'm gonna cover all the screeners I was able to get through, which was quite a bit. Yeah, they hooked us up. So that was
They really
nice.
did.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but you know, we're gonna save that talking for later. I'll just say we got some sneaks on some upcoming bangers, I would say.
Yeah.
Other than that, really not a whole lot of other things that really monopolize my time. I've only seen the first episode of Ted Lasso and Succession, the new seasons, and I love having that counterbalance, but I'm need to catch up now. And then Metroid Prime has been on the back burner. I did watch some like old Breaking Bad episodes on the flight just to kill the time, but I don't even really count that because it was literally just to kill the time. I really don't have a whole lot to add. So I'm just going to call it short.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, outside of the Overlook Film Festival, I mean, I was watching a shit ton of films. That takes a while. But there was one thing extra that it's kind of worth mentioning is when we did our Simpsons episode, either last year or the year before, Warren was kind of talking about some later Simpsons episodes that really stood out as really quality ones. And there was one specifically about Flanders. I was trying to just pull up the episode name right now, but I can't find it. But I know it's in season 33. Oh my God.
Oh.
It's in season 33.
My God.
And it's like a two-parter, so they just play it out as a 45-minute long episode. And man, I can see it's crafted well. It's crafted almost like this kind of spoof on a film, almost kind of like No Country for Old Men, but it's got some Tarantino flares in there with how they use the music and how they do some of the editing and stuff like that. Maybe even some De Palma stuff in there. And so from a craft standpoint, yeah, it's crafted well, but the late Simpsons is just not really for me. The types of jokes, they just don't land, and I don't exactly know why, but it just doesn't hit. And poor old Marge, man, that I can't take her voice these days. It's rough. Yeah, it sounds really harsh to me. I know we covered maybe it was when we did the Thanksgiving special with Warren on his show, and I kind of noticed it really bad too because that was a later episode. But yeah, other than that, I can't agree with Warren on this one. Later Simpsons, it just so far nothing has been able to to convince me that like there's still like a lot of quality stuff in there. So unfortunately that was a sad realization, but yeah, they're still trucking along, so they've got some success. Yeah, Bob, what you been watching? You been watching anything other than Overlook?
Yeah, I
Oh,
do. Yeah, I
damn.
want to kind of just echo what you were saying real quick before I get into my stuff. Yeah, Warren, we've had him on the show the past 3 years, and each October we talk about a few episodes of Treehouse of Horrors,
Mhm.
and it's really great chatting with him. And if you don't know, he has his own show. It's called Simpsons is Greater Than. You can get that anywhere you get your podcast. He interviews a lot of the people that were involved with the creation of The Simpsons, and he also does some episode reviews. And one of those reviews we were on talking about a really horrific episode that was in the style of Treehouse of Horror, but it was all about Thanksgiving, which was fucking cool. And I didn't even know it existed until Warren brought it up to us.
Yeah.
So check that out for sure. It's an interesting episode, and then listen to us talk about it. We had a really good conversation.
Don't listen to it right now though, because it's spring.
It's
Turn
it's
this
not
off and listen to it now.
right now.
Yeah.
So I watched 10 new horror movies this past week, courtesy of the Overlook Film Festival, and we're gonna do like a nice wrap up episode for you guys, dropping next week is what we plan on. So much more to come on that. Outside of that, the only other thing I had time to watch was this 3-part Waco documentary that's on Netflix right now. It's relatively new and extraordinarily depressing. I kind of thought I knew like what went down with this Waco situation, and then I started watching documentary, and like I did not know it was a cult like situation.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you didn't?
Yeah, I
Guys,
did not.
I'm about to
I did
say
not.
something shocking, but America has too many tragedies to keep up
Hey,
with.
hey!
Get out of
Watch your
town.
mouth.
Get out of
I won't
town.
take this un-American nonsense.
I'm sorry to go ahead and break the news here.
If you don't have
No,
enough time to keep up with all our tragedies, you can get out.
Well,
Get
We,
out.
we believe in America.
well, go ahead and check that off the
It's
list.
out. Oh my god. Oh my god. Too good. Yeah, it was I found it interesting because basically everything I thought Waco was just fucking wrong. But it's extremely depressing. They interview obviously a bunch of the police officers that were on site. And some of the survivors from it as well that were part of the cult, and you kind of get both sides of it. And it's interesting, but you got to be ready for some pretty heavy stuff for sure. I recommend it if you're into that kind of thing, but it's not easy breezy for sure.
Yeah.
So be ready for that. It's definitely one of those Netflix documentaries that they like make 3 episodes that like you really just don't. It just doesn't need to be quite that long. I don't know why. It just the vast majority of things on Netflix are like 30 minutes too long. Like almost no matter what it is.
Attention is
somebody-
capital, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody needs to edit some shit. That's for sure. I guess like the more minutes your eyes are on their fucking stuff, the better for them.
Yes.
But it's like fucking
Yes.
frustrating. Anyway, yeah, cut your shit down. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
That's really it though. Other than all the other movies that we'll be talking about very shortly. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that on our main feed and minicast and YouTube.
Whoa. Not
Ooh,
mini
yeah.
cast, but it is a mini cast. Never mind.
And minicast. We're
Like you
Come on.
specifically
everywhere.
told me not to call it that.
Well, our main
Oh, that's-
big
Yeah,
wrap
I know.
up
I
is gonna
got you.
be
Yeah.
in our main
A bonus
feed for
episode.
all you guys to listen to. Yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into our last segment here, which is of course our hotline screams.
Hotline scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail, looking at you, Hugh, to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We do have one voicemail this week. Our friend Caitlin from Plug It Up rang us up. Let's go and hear what
Whoa.
she has to say.
All right.
Hello, gentlemen. It's your friend Caitlin from Plug It Up. I'm settling in for a movie to wind down the evening here and thought I'd hit you guys with a question. I'd love to hear your answers, and if you'd like it as a Hotline Screams prompt, feel free to use it.
Oh.
But the question, or prompt, I guess, is make up a Jeopardy category that you would absolutely sweep. And I think all of us could probably sweep a general horror movie category, so maybe give us like a super niche horror Jeopardy category, or maybe something not related to horror. Love you guys.
That's a great prompt, and
That
we are
is.
going to use that.
Yeah, I like that a
Geez,
lot.
anybody got anything off the top of the dome? I have one that's not horror. Maybe.
Yeah,
What is
okay.
it? What is it?
I was realizing this week, just by sheer virtue of like what I watch to wind down at the end of the day, is like silly little YouTube videos. A lot of them are focused around the Legend of Zelda, and I think that I could probably answer just about any question about certainly the 3D Zeldas in a Jeopardy format. Any question that they're likely to have, anyway. I don't know down to the code, but I've seen a lot of shit about the goddamn Zelda franchise, and I don't think I'm stopping anytime soon. So.
I could tear up some Zelda. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I got a couple like random things I could probably do pretty well at. I've read like 4 or 5 of Anthony Bourdain's books, so I know a lot about him and his life. I'd probably do pretty well with that. General like a tiki history and knowledge, I'd do pretty well with that stuff.
That's yours. We're it's over.
Yeah. There's a handful of like musicians that I fucking love. Like if there was a Misfits round, I would fucking murder it. If the producer and musician Danger Mouse, I know too much about. If there's a round on him, I'd do pretty well too. So yeah, there's a handful. And then of course, general like horror knowledge, I think we'd all do fairly well with.
Yeah. Well, for example, our trivia round that we did at the Overlook, tested by our boy Ted Gagan, we did like we did really well. I thought for most people, it was like every round was 7 to 9 out of 10s, but in that crowd, you had to have 10 out of 10s. So I'm imagining myself against.
Did y'all embarrass us?
No,
not at all.
We did extremely well, but you just had in that situation, you had to get all 10 answers correct, and then you would also not be the only one to do so, and then you'd have to pick a random number between 1 and 100 and be the closest to the number to win.
Oh no!
Like, that's how
it was basically a lottery.
People got
to win.
10 out of 10.
Every round there was at least 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3, or it was
It was competitive.
Either that or they were all just lying because you were grading yourself too.
That's true.
I'm not saying anybody was lying, but it could have been possible.
But probably.
We may have witnessed someone very famous cheat at trivia last year. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Who did directly benefit our friend Mike from Let's Get Physical Media.
Okay.
And we hold nothing but love for all of it.
It's true. Yeah.
No.
Juice, you got anything?
Well, since you are bringing up music, if you ever need to name any Arctic Monkeys song title, I know them all.
Yeah.
And if you need to know what album they're off of or what B-side they're on, I can tell you. Let me.
Yeah.
I doubt they're gonna have a bomb the music industry round, but I could nail that one.
That would be my number one band. I mean, I know a lot about like Brit indie stuff. I don't know. Yeah, that was the only thing. I'm terrible. Like I'm off the top of the dome. I'm usually no good anyways. Even coming up with Jeopardy themes that I would be good at. I'm sure there's some, but I can't. Yeah. I'm
gonna guess women's perspectives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sexual positions. Let me. Yeah.
The old 96. The old 6
It's sexual positions that begin with the phrase "the old."
The old 96.
The old
reach around. The old Alaskan snow dragon.
I'm gonna see if
beard
I can,
cradle.
I stumbled across this YouTube clip of this like British. It was like old. I don't know if it's a parody or not. It was this old British like a game show, and it was like crazy sexual positions, and this old woman was just like rattling them off, like she it's like, and then she like missed one, and she was like, oh, of course, like she was cracking. I gotta find that and post it up on site. She was cracking me up.
Good for her.
I haven't rocked a glass bottom boat since 1978.
It was like the Alaskan snow dragon. She was like, oh yeah.
Oh my god!
Of course.
I was gonna say Siberian snow dragon. Totally different thing.
I
gotta find that
Steamboat
shit.
Willie.
The old.
Anyway,
gotta be
the old. Yeah, that's a solid prompt. Thank you, Caitlin, for letting us use that. Yeah, if you guys are listening and can think of a Jeopardy situation category that you would just absolutely kill at, call in and let us know. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, that's all we got for hotline screens. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. Actually, you know what? In honor of next week's show, I do want to throw out just one more prompt. And I have mentioned this before. I don't think we got any calls on it. Maybe we will this time. So next week, we're talking about the winner of the 420 poll. And we're talking about Troll 2, of course.
Whoa.
So if you guys are listening, you have any like crazy weed related stories about you or about one of your friends, you saw them do something crazy at a party or, whatever, call in to let us know. We want some crazy weed stories. We're talking about the 420 poll pick winner. Why not?
The colors, Duke. The colors.
Dude, Randy's got a good one about me. He's already told it before on this show.
We can share some of that because
there might be a couple.
we can get into that.
There was a tornado involved.
Okay, I'm not remembering, but okay.
I'm not sure what you mean, but I know the story. I have to. All right. So yeah, we can share some of our weed stories on next week's show as well. We can get in the spirit of things. So yeah, call in. Let us know. 904-638-3231. We're talking about Troll 2 next week. Slam your eyeballs into it. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, hit us up on all the social medias. You just search Straight Chilling Podcast anywhere you'll find us. We are on Twitter at STR8_chilling. Send us an email at straightchillingpodcast.com. And if you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, just let us know on one of the social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. It's a wonderful supportive community. We talk about the movie of the week and television and games and stuff, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great people on there. Join. Until next,
okay people on there.
some people are like, I don't know. No, they're all fucking wonderful. All of them. Every single one of you. Fucking great.
Most of you are pretty good.
Join up. Shut up,
what a
Stains.
son of a bitch.
You fucker. We love our Slack community. We really do. For real. So yeah, join our shit. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad.